Hey everybody, we're going to be doing what would be kind of what a live edit is without live editing. So I went to the gardens last Saturday and it was raining, but out of all of the photos that I felt like doing a video on, we're going to do this in Noel. I know you can't really see much of his body here, and I do have other shots that are probably going to be better to show off a body if I wanted, but I really love his eye and his coloring with the blue, so I'm going to do this one. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the aspect like I would, to set it up for Instagram, because that's where I'll be posting this when I'm done. The other thing is, let's see if I can, let's see, that looks good to me. All right, so the temperature, and I might not have to edit too much on this, but the temperature, let's see, I want to underexpose, overexpose. I want it to be just right. So I feel that's fine. All right. If I wanted to be warmer, I could. Honestly, the reason why I'm actually not going to touch the temperature is because it was raining. So it had more of a cooling effect. Plus I had a filter on, which was a CPL lens. And contrast. I actually want to bump this up a bit, and I'll tell you why. If we were to lower the contrast, the scales look more soft. But when you're working with reptiles, you kind of want to increase it so you can see its scales better. Not like severely increase it, but enough to make it stand out. All right. Highlights. Now, certain areas are kind of bright, as you can see. And that's just from, the sun, the angle, etc. But I still want it to be, highlighted, but not overly highlighted, which is why I'm zoomed in on his face so we can get a really good look. All right, shadows. And I'm not just changing the shadows in its face. I mean, if you look at the eyeball, you're able to see, there I am taking the photo. I mean, this little dude's eye. Look at that. He's like, please get that camera out of my face. That's me holding the camera, but you can't really tell. But look at that. You're able to see what he sees, and he sees me like, go away. Poor little dude. All right, we're going to kind of like zoom out of that so that way y'all don't. But yeah, there we go. So shadows. You can change it to be dark, or you can change it to show his eye. I don't want to let too much light in. I think that's right. Okay. Now the whites, I mean, if I wanted it to, I want it to pop a bit, but I don't want it to be overly bright. I can do that. And if I wanted to have the blacks darker, I could definitely do that. And I mean, yes, you could see more detail in his eye, but then I feel like it takes away from his actual iris right here. I'm going to call it an iris. I am sure that's probably what this is labeled on an anole, a lizard. They all have different eyes. Texture. So, since we're working with scales, you could do a couple of things with texture. If you wanted the scales to pop, I mean, you could definitely do that. And you can see the difference. It's pretty neat. But honestly, if you're already playing with the lighting up here, sometimes you really don't need to do texture. Texture can be fun to use when you're playing with like fibers, pet hair, etc. Whether you want it to look like it's really, really detailed, or if you wanted it to look soft. So in this case, if I wanted it to look soft, we can take texture away. And that would add softness to the photo, which is not a bad effect either. But I am going to put it, we'll put texture at 5. 5 is fine. Clarity, I don't really feel like we need to do that because, we play with it when we're actually editing up here. So we kind of play with these things first before we even have to touch this. And you can if you want to, but sometimes it's not necessary. Alrighty, so I mean, we could play with tone and curve. You could play with the red levels if you wanted to. Or you could remove the red levels, lower it, etc., depending on where on the curves that you wanted to do this. I don't always I don't actually mention curves ever. But you can do it. I mean, if you wanted to. Me personally, I don't really see the need to play with the red because that's fine. Green, on the other hand, I don't know. Maybe we could play around with it. Like if I wanted to make it greener or more earthy, I could. And, you know, this is just, I'm moving this with my trackpad. This is just minimal. Any slight movement and you could totally change it. Honestly, I don't think I want to play with the green. I do maybe want to play with the blue though. Because if you look, he has this beautiful blue right here. Yeah, we don't want to do the whole eyeball. We just want to, so when you see these little like scales right here, you're playing with those levels from the photo. And if I wanted to go lower, I could actually remove the blue and make it more green. Actually, I think the blue originally is fine. We might not even have to touch it. And I prefer to go with more natural looking photos close to the shot that I took. So I don't need to worry about this. I could also turn it off. Meaning I gray it out so I don't accidentally make a mistake playing with it. And now if I wanted to saturate his eyeball, I could maybe come to aqua. Oh, look at that. Aqua was perfect for this. I could also come to blue. And we could make it pop that way. And they're like minor details. Even though you see me doing it like this, they're minor. Like it's pretty much the same. It's just slightly more colorful. It's the same color. It's just a little more colorful. And if I wanted to tone it down a bit, I could probably bump it down to 40 for both of them. And we would still have a pretty decent effect. But maybe 50, 60 is good, I think. Yeah, 60 is not overly, but enough. And that's fine. I'm okay with that. All right, so we could change the sharpening to 50. I'm going to keep it at 50. This preset is always going to be 40 if you're in Lightroom Classic. Luminance, or what you call Denoise. This is regular Denoise. I have the sweet spot at 35, which I'm content with. And then there's color Denoise, or what they call just color here under the noise reduction. I'm going to put that at 35 as well. So that way all the graininess in the photo goes away. So all you see is his little face and everything else is blurred out. But honestly, he was in a little tight spot trying to hide. I literally moved a leaf just to get a photo of him. And he's like, "What are you doing? Why are you taking a photo of me?" I don't think we need to worry about defringe. We didn't have any. Okay. Now, if I wanted to distort the lens, I could. It's kind of like after taking the shot, but honestly, I don't really need to worry about that. The distortion is fine. I don't need to defringe anything. I don't really need to transform anything on the photo either, so I'm going to shut that off. I don't ever use this transform. There's no need to. I mean, there are other projects that you can totally use it for, but I don't really see the need in that. Now, if you wanted to do vignetting, you could do that. Make it like a glamour shot. Oh, that's cute, right? Okay, or you can make it darker. Still cute, right? I don't know. Oh, you know, I don't think I would do that. I used to be really into it, and then like, I don't know, one day I just kind of was like, no biggie. So I'm going to turn this off because I don't really do it. But if you ever wanted to do something like that where you made it look like it was faded in like a glamour shot, that's what vignetting is. It's not a bad thing. I mean, there are some photos that are worth it to do it, but not this one. This one's fine the way it is. Calibration. I really don't feel like doing this, and it's not necessary for my photo. But you know what? If you wanted to see what calibration is, let's turn it back on. Let's open it back up. So we could change the tint, right? It's color calibration. So for people who have like a designated profile or color profile that they're using from to do color accuracy, this is where this comes into play. Like if I wanted to completely tweak my photo, I could. I mean, these aren't like huge changes. They're minute changes over moving certain things. If I wanted to saturate this, I could. If I wanted to desaturate it, I could. So, and that's more like soft proofing anyways. I don't need to do this like at all. So we're just going to turn calibration off. I don't need it. You may want to play around with it. Like if that's something, oh, did I turn that off? I did not mean to do that. You might want to play around with it. But primarily when I'm editing, whether it's flowers from the garden or creatures like anoles, animals, you know, whatever I'm taking a photo of, I usually will use these. I very, very seldomly use the HSL color, but in this case I showed you why I used it to make his eyeball pop. And it was just basically enhancing what was already there. And, you know, not by much. So, you know, you take your time with your photos and you'll come to play around with these things. Now, there are other things, things that I don't use in Lightroom. I don't use map. I could literally go on the map, type in San Antonio Botanical Garden, and put the metadata in there. There's no need to. Yeah, I don't need it. I know how to use it. I don't need it. If I wanted to do a book, like add it to a photo book, I could. I don't want to make a book that's going to be 240 pages. We'll go back to develop. If I wanted to make a slideshow, slideshows are like, for me, it's what Keynotes is, but with photos. I don't need to make a slideshow, although that is cute. I think this is handy for people who like go and do presentations. Like if I don't know if you all ever do the Nat Geo, they go and they, you know, have speakers, photographers, people who are out there in the field doing all of these things, talking about their experience, their journey, and you know, there's usually a cause behind it. The last one I went to, it was about the being aware of the environment, and you know, I think it was underwater. So it was it's a wonderful experience to go if you haven't, but it's very informative, you know, and they explain things. And this is what I recommend, like if you're into photography, take photojournalism, take journalism, make sure that you are able to tell a story about the shot that you took. That's something you definitely want to do if you're looking to do it in a more professional atmosphere. There's a lot of things, you know, you got to be able to tell a story. You got to be able to have an eye for the photo. You know, there's, you can learn how to take a photo. And then there's people who just naturally have that talent. Everyone's different, you know, if that's something that you're passionate about, don't let anybody stop you from doing it. Just get out there and do it. Get better at your writing skills. Be creative with your writing. Make sure that when you're doing it, that you're following the journalism guidelines, because that's going to actually help you to get to where you want to be, if that's where you want to be. All right, so this is all I need in here. Now I could, oh, you know what? I forgot. I can play in black and white too. But this one's a better in color just because of the way the eye is. And that's the only reason why I kind of wanted to use his head as a focal point. So we're going to edit in Photoshop. Yeah, here we go. Edit in Photoshop. I had to do a double take, y'all. I had to make sure I had my mic unmuted. I've been doing that lately, even with my streams. I forget to hit unmute. So it's like, oh, let me double check and make sure that people can hear me. All right. So I'm going to go over here. I was looking for my, oh, you know what? I forgot this is the one. Okay. I don't need that open. But I am going to go here and I am going to go to open. Here we go. I'm going to open my logo because I'm actually going to do this here. Everybody has a different watermark on what they do. And I actually created mine in Procreate. And, you know, it's a pretty little feather with the rainbow and a specific watercolor pen, brush or whatever that does it for me. And then I chose a specific font for doing my little watermark. So, you know, if you're trying to figure out how to get your watermark into your photo, you can just open your watermark, go to the photo you're editing. I can close this out now because I basically duplicated it into this layer here. Now I want my watermark to kind of blend, so that way it's not overpowering and you're not looking at this here versus this here, but I still want to have this here like a little smudge, so that way nobody tries to claim copyright to a photo that they did not take. And that's the purpose of a watermark, not just to do that, but you know, this is my thing. So, all right. And I don't want it to look super washed out from the green. I mean, I want it to display what the colors are, but I don't want it to be overpowering. So I'm going to keep it at 55. And that's changing the opacity. The opacity, like if you're doing a layer and it's kind of like a watermark or something, I mean, you could totally do just a name watermark, keep it there, and it's not intrusive to your photo. But me, I did like a whole little fancy thing, right? Because I took my time doing this and I like it. So I do the opacity lowering it so that way it doesn't take away from the photo. So what I'm going to do is export this. Export as. And I want to save it as a JPEG because JPEGs are a lot smaller than a raw photo. And yes, it's going to save with this big file, but when I actually put it on Instagram, it compresses it. You know, Instagram, Facebook, they always compress these things. I'm going to call this a null and save. So that's the null photo. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is actually turn that off. File, layer, new. Okay, so I never really talk about fonts or text. And I'm going to actually save this as my thumbnail. But, you know, I want to make it wider. So, you know what? I'm not going to save it. Delete layer. No, delete. Yes, delete layer. Okay, and no, I don't want to save. Okay, I'm going to come back here. I'm going to go to the crop and I'm going to put original. Right, okay. And then I'm going to go to edit in Photoshop. And I'm going to leave it like this because this is going to be my thumbnail for the video. And I'm going to show you how I do it because some people don't know how to do the text in here. And I always use Photoshop for this, for those who don't know. And I'll show you how to add a drop shadow to any text that you're doing. Since this is, you know, a green background, my shadows are going to pop really nice. It's just going to take a minute. And what I'm going to label it is editing in Lightroom Classic and in Photoshop. I mean, we barely did any editing in Photoshop, but, you know, you can put your watermark in there and it makes it fairly simple to do. You can actually do that in mobile as well. I don't know if you have Lightroom, and I don't know if you use regular Lightroom. And the Lightroom I'm referring to is the newer one, the one that works better with mobile. Or you can use Lightroom Classic here, and then, you know, you can probably store it in the cloud somewhere and then just have it go to the Photoshop. I personally like to edit on desktop as opposed to the iPad, but the iPad is extremely handy when I'm mobile. The only downfall is I can't do Lightroom Classic on mobile. I wish it was one Lightroom app that would be unified between having all of the old features with the new UI. I think that would be ideal because then you can choose what you want to put into the cloud so you can be on the go. Like, I feel like they should actually just consolidate it to one app instead of two. But I do like Lightroom Classic because I can actually just have my external storage hard drive connected and be able to pull up my files directly through Lightroom Classic as a catalog, as opposed to, oh, this is going to take a while. Okay, it's been open this whole time. But I like doing that as opposed to having to upload everything into the cloud. All right, so here we go. We're going to put editing in Lightroom Classic and Photoshop. So this is how I do this. And I usually play around with the size. And everything is centered, so, you know I have enough room. I can probably go a little. Yeah, that's good. All right, so now I can make this, big. Not that big. All right, so this is, I'm not going to put it over his face because he's like right dead in the center there. But I'm going to put it slightly above him. I feel like that's a good spot. Now, if you're working with anything with text related and you want to have that really cool effect where it has the drop shadow. Sorry, I'm wondering why everything is grayed out. There we go. So we're going to go to layer style. I can't do it. What do you mean? Oh, it's not selected? Oh, that's why. I was about to say what's going on here. All right, so then we're going to go to drop shadow. And that's actually how you're able to do the shadows. So if we look at it, it's a little off, right? It's not too close. So we can change the distance. And this is for people who want to actually like add something where it makes it pop or something. Why don't we go 35? Oh, that's 70. 73. No, you know what? Maybe 71. 73 is a little much. Let's go to 72. 72 is good. So then there's the spread. You can, like if you see it, you're able to see a couple of things here. I don't want it to be that bad. What was it, 27 originally? Let's go with 30. 33 isn't bad. Size is at 33 as well. All right, so that's good. Now, you can change these things if you wanted to. But personally, there's no need to. Like, I feel that that's quite enough. And I'm going to go here. I'm going to export this as a... Actually, you know what I should probably do? Oh boy. Image size. So this is a huge file, right? I'm going to do it 1280 by 720 and select OK. So it's the same photo, but I basically downscaled it. So that way when I export this, and we're going to select export as, it's not a huge file. And there you go. It's a normal, it's still a large file, but it's enough for what the YouTube thumbnail is, if you ever wanted to know what that was. Wait, was it 1280? It was 1280 by 720, wasn't it? Oops. Sorry. I'm really bad on my image size today. Canvas size, image size. Here we go. So we're going to do 1280 by 720. There we go. Much better. And it shrinks. But if we zoom back in, we're still able to see all of the detail. I mean, it's a fairly decent photo. All right, so now we're going to export. We're going to export as. There. I don't know why it keeps doing 1080. It's really annoying. Hold on. Yeah, okay. But it should be 720. Yeah, that's better. Let's export. All right, so I'm going to call this thumb, because that's going to be my thumbnail. All right, so I can close out of this. No, I don't need to save, because it'll save it as a PSD, which is a Photoshop photo. And I can actually just close out of this and not have to worry about doing anything. And it's actually going to back up my catalog. And around as soon as it closes out. And it does take a while. But I wanted to thank you all for hanging out with me. If you enjoyed the simple edit that we did and learned something about putting in a text and drop shadows, or what you can do to change different things in Lightroom Classic, then don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll see you all next video.